Okay, so we're going to talk about promise in JavaScript, which we will be using when we are developing Lightning Web Component. So a promise, basically a method, so to speak, when you are executing something remotely. So say you want to call a server outside of Salesforce. For example, I want to do a charge card transaction or a credit card transaction. Therefore, I will be contacting, for example, PayPal to charge a particular credit card number. I'm calling PayPal's API platform. So I'm sending PayPal the credit card number, the expiry date of the credit card, and the CVV code or the security code, and then the billing address and so forth. When I send those data, I'm waiting for a response from PayPal's API platform and tell my script or my code whether the credit card was successfully charged or not, right? So that how we can use JavaScript promise, because we don't know how long, how many milliseconds or how many seconds PayPal will process the transaction. Or what if PayPal's platform have a network outage or a downtime? Their network was down and were not able to process our credit card transaction, and it's gonna keep trying if we tell our code to do that. But that's basically how we can use JavaScript promise when we want to call something and the result is not instantaneous, but it's going to be asynchronous, meaning it's going to take time to process it. Okay, and that's how or when we are going to use JavaScript promise. So enough talk. Let's do how. Let's do the syntax. Okay. So I want to make a new promise. So let's call the promise P. So let P, which is a promise, equals new promise. Remember when we were talking about array methods in the previous two videos or one video? Oh, I need to refresh my developer console here. Okay, so let's do it again. Make a new variable, say P, which is a new promise. Let, or not let, new promise. And I was saying, do you remember when we do the array methods? We do function. This is the exact same thing, right? And then you do curly brackets like that, and you can code here. Okay? So a promise receive or pass two parameters, which is resolve when the promise has been fulfilled, and reject when the promise failed to be fulfilled. So this is how the syntax go. So new promise function, you have two parameters, resolve and reject. Okay, let's move on. So on this section, you can do your code. For example, you can pass charge card information to your payment gateway, such as PayPal. Okay, so you do your code here. For example, you're going to do your code, which we are not going to do right now. And then we are going to pretend that the charge was successful. Okay, with that, I'm going to say, let's make a new variable here. Let charge card response code, for example, equals success. So let's just pretend we are passing something here. We are executing a bunch of code, which we are not doing right now. And that bunch of code returns a charge card or credit card response code success, meaning the charge was successful. Okay, now we're going to say to our code, if credit card response code equals success, we are going to resolve. We are going to fulfill the promise because it was successful. So we're going to say resolve, and we're just going to pass for this example approve, the message approved. Okay, like that. Else, we are going to say reject declined. So let's rerun this story. So a promise is when you want to execute something remotely. For this example, we are trying to charge a credit card remotely. So we are going to execute the charge card transaction through PayPal. So we're passing the charge card information to PayPal, and then we would know, was it a success? Was it not a success? Who decides that? PayPal response code, right? So if the response code says success, means the promise was fulfilled. Therefore, we want to execute the resolve, meaning this promise has been fulfilled. If the result is declined other than success, else we want to reject the promise. Okay, so I'm going to put this back to success. So this is just executing, this is how the promise is going to be executed. This in itself will not execute the promise just yet. So how do you actually execute the promise? So to execute the promise, I'm going to say charge credit card. Wait, actually, this has to be the variable here, not p. I was just trying to. Okay, so we name the variable credit card is a promise. Okay, so charge credit card is a promise or a new promise. But this is just a definition of the promise. How we are going to execute it is you call this charge credit card, which is a promise, and then you dot then. So you're actually trying to execute this, right? What happens then? What happens then? So then executes when the promise is fulfilled. So charge credit card, charge it. So if it's charged, if it's approved, right? So this basically tells charge the credit card. If it's approved, then what? Right? You write your function here. So function, I'm gonna do like that, like usual, and this will accept the message or the result, for example. Okay, so what would be passed here? This is going to be passed, the message when it's resolved. Okay, so when it's resolved, which is successful, this will be passed to here. Got that? When it didn't resolve, so I'm going to say catch. If it failed, well, catch the failure as well, right? Same thing, function, do that, bracket, and then you can code in between like that. So if it didn't succeed, or if it's failed, catch the message as well, catch the result. which will catch this message, declined. Okay, so I'm just going to go console.log. I'm going to do interpolation here. Your credit card transaction was result. It's either approved or declined. Same thing here. If I put it there, and so your credit card transaction was, or should be, declined. Okay, so I'm going to save this and let's give it a shot here. So flip back, refresh, boom. Your credit card transaction was approved because we say the response code is a success. Because the response code was a success, right? So if the credit card response code is a success, we want to resolve the promise. Okay? So the promise was resolved, therefore, because the promise was resolved, we want to execute this line. Because then only executes when the promise is fulfilled or completed. The catch only executes when the promise failed to approve. So when the reject is executed, this will be caught here, and you can code here. Your code. You can do whatever you want here. You can do whatever you want here. So this is a simple example. This usually we actually try to, on this particular section of code, we're actually going to try to charge a particular credit card number, pass it to PayPal API, see and catch the response code. Usually comes back in a JSON, JavaScript object notation format, and then you parse the JSON, and then you can do your code. If it's a success, whatever you want to execute here, you can save it to your Salesforce records. You can do whatever you need. If it's declined, you want to log the failed transaction as well. Log it on your Salesforce credit card transaction log. Something to log it, to trace it, what's going on. Why was it rejected? Is it not enough funds? Was it blocked by the bank, or whatever the case may be? So this is a real world example of how we can use JavaScript Promise in Lightning Web Component development. So it's pretty abstract, but I hope you get the point how it's going to work. So yeah, please do type this on your own. So the format is new promise function. We have resolve and reject. This is when the promise is fulfilled. This is when the promise is rejected. Okay, then do your code, then decide when it is resolved, when this promise should be in a successful or resolved state. You put your logic there, right? So in this case, if the credit card response code was a success, I want to make this promise resolved. If the credit card response code was not a success, I want it to be rejected. So then we actually execute the promise by doing this. Do charge credit card, then this will only execute when it's resolved, right? When it's resolved, you execute this. You pass this, whatever is being passed from here goes to here. Okay? And then if it failed, the reject will be executed, which will be caught by the catch. Okay? So catch will catch this. Whatever is being passed here from the reject will go here. And then you can do your own logic. What will happen if it's declined or if it's rejected? That's basically the foundation of how we will be using promises in Lightning Web Component development. Okay, if it's still a bit unclear, please repeat this video a couple of times until you actually understand how this works. Type it on your own 10 fingers. I'll see you in the next video. Bada bing, bada boom. Hit that subscribe button and explore new trailhead grounds and learn to implement the most useful and popular apps on the Salesforce App Exchange. And do yourself a favor, like this video, and you'll be surprised on how much more you understand when watching this same video after liking it. Don't take my word. Watch this one more time after you like the video and see it for yourself. Bada bing, bada boom.